On Saturday, the automotive industry lost a true legend. Jim Ziegler, known to many as the Alpha Dawg, passed away, leaving behind an incredible legacy. His passion, humor, and fearless advocacy for dealers made him a force to be reckoned with. Today, we are honored to be joined by some of Jim's closest friends and colleagues, people who knew him not just as a powerhouse in the industry, but as a mentor, a partner, and a friend. So we're joined by April Simmons, who's Corporate Internet and Marketing Director at Horn Auto Group. Also Jennifer Briggs, who's the Dean of Auto Diesel Institute of Michigan. Don Hall, President of and CEO of the Virginia Automobile Dealers Association. And Sean B. Bradley, who is the President of Dealer Synergy, host of Millionaire Car Salesman and the podcast. And he's also author, speaker, and trainer, and very close to Jim as well. So folks, thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule for joining me on this, what I think is a special edition here at CBT News, and to kind of get your thoughts here. And Don, I'll start with you. What was the first thing that you heard? What went through your mind when you heard of Jim's passing? I mean, we all knew that it was coming based on his posts and what have you, but you didn't know, just when it was going to happen. And what was the first thing that came to mind?
Jim, first of all, first and foremost, my first thought was that, oh man, I wish I had called him 2 weeks earlier or a month ago. I talked to him late last year. Jim was a unique individual in our industry, and I always got a kick about being around him. Like Jim, we both have been in the business a long time, and he was just someone that was inspiring. We use him for a lot of our conventions. Mm-hmm. Jim and I end up going to a lot of meetings together, and invariably was always taking photographs of the two of us on a plane someplace doing right. things. And I guess I'm reminded of the fact that there are important people in our life, and Jim was important to our industry. Mm-hmm. And for a minute, ladies and gentlemen, let's remember those people who make a difference in our industry. I know we got to sell cars this month. I know we got to finish the month strong, but we have a tendency sometimes to move way too quickly. Let's celebrate the life that Jim led, and the inspiration he gave so many. And no matter what, Jim overcame a lot to be extraordinarily successful. And he didn't do that overnight. He did that with a lot of work and a lot of enthusiasm and drive. And that I shall always miss, because there is no one that is Jim Ziegler in our industry today.
That's right. That's right. I agree. April, how about you? I know that you guys were close. You were on his podcast all the time. You all look like you're having so much fun, but at the same time delivering great content to dealers all over the country. And so what are your feelings at this time?
The true testament to who he was, I think, was these last few months. Even when he knew it was terminal and everyone knew that this was not going to end well,
right,
he was still giving to everyone. And I think that's a real testament to who he was. He was still more worried about everybody else and how he could serve and how he could help. And he still wanted to speak, and he still wanted to be a part of this industry until he couldn't. He genuinely was giving back all the way to the end. And I think that's a real testament. Even on some of his hardest days toward the end, and he was really struggling, he would not dwell on that. Okay. He said to me at one point, he said, what is, and what ain't, and so what?
Yeah, that's right.
And then from there, it was like, tell me what's going on, and what are you doing? And, he was always so worried about everybody else. And I think he is the most giving human I've ever probably met.
Yeah, that's perfectly well said, and I agree with your sentiments there. Jennifer, how about you? I know you guys go way back, and like April, you were on his show all the time. He was on yours. I know that you visited the stage together, when you're out on conferences. So talk to me. What comes to mind today?
I will never forget the first time I met Jim in real life. And it was at an internet battle plan, and I bumped into him in the hall. I had come late. I was the director of operations. My sales managers were all there. But I remember bumping into him, grabbing a cup of coffee, and I said, oh my gosh, it's Jim Ziegler. I can't believe I'm meeting Jim Ziegler. And he said, oh my gosh, it's Jennifer Briggs. I can't believe I'm meeting you. And I said this to someone yesterday. I said, he is the realest celebrity I've ever met in my whole life.
Yeah, that's great.
And Jim and Debbie had built an amazing business.
Yeah, that's for
but
sure.
so much more than that, they've built a legacy of people they have mentored
Yeah.
and inspired. And I just hope that by the end of my career, I can do half as much as
Yeah.
what they've done for the automotive industry.
Yeah, no question about it. They really have, and they're. It's funny when you say Jim and Debbie, everyone in the industry knows who you're talking about. It's kind of like Cher, right? It's just those two names. So, so Sean, I know that you were extremely close to him. You've done so many programs together. You shared the stage. He was a speaker at your event. You were a speaker at his event. I mean, you guys go way back. How are you feeling today?
Still in shock. First, I want to just say that my heart goes out to Debbie, Zach, and everybody that cared about Jim. But
yeah,
I had a deep relationship with him for almost 20 years. We had actual businesses for about 10 years, but our families got close. We've taken cruises together.
Oh, wow.
I mean, he taught me about the Louis XIII, cracked the first bottle of Louis XIII. We both got a little inebriated at his house, you know what I mean? And
sure.
I want to just say that he was hilarious.
Yeah.
Forget about brilliant for a second. He was one of the most funniest people I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
And we know him as this juggernaut in the automotive industry, but it's because of Jim Ziegler advising me about the NSA, the National Speakers Association.
Yeah.
I joined the NSA. I became a CSP. And when we walked those halls, me, him, Corey Mosley, Mark Tewart,
sure.
He was the celebrity like at NADA in that whole other vertical in the NSA.
That's right.
And what I would just let everybody know is that man is by far personifies the phrase dealer's advocate. His entire essence was there to protect automotive professionals and dealers. And he would go against anybody or anything that he felt would infringe upon any of us.
Yeah.
And that is one of the biggest things that I've got from Jim is being a dealer's advocate and be able to help people. And I got to say this, and if anybody really knows Jim, especially when people pass away, we want to just remember the good stuff. And he was an incredible person, but he had such a fierce personality. And I have to say, you know, we stopped talking for a little bit. And I just thank God that me and Jim reconnected last year.
Yeah.
And we both were like, my God, I wish we didn't waste so much time. And so I encourage everybody, life is so short. If there's people that are important to you, that you love 100%, go and let them know, because tomorrow's not promised. And my regret is that me and Jim didn't rekindle sooner than we did.
That's right. That's right. Don, he's one of those guys in the industry that you say that, you know, it's almost like a Donald Trump in politics. I don't know that there's another Jim Ziegler out there. You know, once he's gone, right? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I never forget, I called Jim one day out of the clear blue and I said, Jim, talk to me about this BDC concept. And this guy said, why are you calling me, Hall? He never called me kid, by the way. He called others kid, but never called me kid. He said, why are you calling me? I said, because you're an old guy. And I said, you seem to have changed with the times. And he gave me this kind of this lecture as an older brother to a younger brother, if you will, that if we're going to be relevant in this wonderful automotive industry, that we must change with the times.
Yeah.
And age is just a number. It doesn't mean we have to be antiquated because we happen to be older. It means we must embrace technology and the changes. And I watched him do that.
Yeah.
And that's more remarkable. As I've gotten older over the many years, I watch people at similar age to me in the business, and they still want to operate like it's 1982.
Yeah, that's right.
Jim changed with the times. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a real legacy and a real talent to be relevant up until the very end. And I know as a person, he was also a good man. I first started dealing with Jim probably 25, 28 years ago. You know, with all his rings and his Rolexes and so forth, and we'd get into arguments who had more Rolexes. That he always won, by the way. But the rings, I said, Jim, what's with the rings? You know, come on, man. But that was Jim's, that was his signature.
Yeah.
And it made him who he was. And I always got a kick out of it because I'm the polar opposite of that. And it mattered to me that he was so relevant in an industry. fast forward years later and years ago as well.
That's right. I was speaking to one sales manager, actually he's a general manager, dealer principal now, and he said, I knew I liked him when I was in his class. I was in the front row, and he said, I don't think I was paying attention, and he came over to me and he goes, hey, look, son, he goes, what I have on my left hand right now, I have more on my left hand than you're going to make this year. All right. So maybe you should listen to me. He goes, I knew then that I liked him. That was Jim, right? It's crazy. It's crazy. April, talk to me about the fact that he did have, as Don just pointed out, the ability to be a chameleon and change. He often said it's funny that a guy in his 70s is now teaching people that are in their 20s about how to work the internet. With the Internet Battle Plan and so many other programs that he was involved in. Talk to me about that.
Even up to this last year, he was the first one who would research, when AI was coming out, he was the first one to bring it up.
Yeah.
He was always going to be cutting edge. He was never part of like the status quo. He really believed in the person. It didn't matter who you knew, didn't matter where you came from. You didn't have to be the person who, grew up with the dealers, right? Like I fell into this business, right? And he believed in people fiercely. And if he believed in you, he really pushed you out there, but he had that same fierceness when it came to being the best. I think he really felt like it was really important to him to never be a fraud.
Yeah.
So many times I think people, when they go out there and they want to say, I'm the best, and they want to say, look at my rings, it was important to him that he was the best, that he understood every aspect of this business. And I also think it's important to recognize, I know we're on an automotive conversation, but Jim had 5 lives before he even got into automotive. You talk about his military time. He was in steel work. He was a freaking DJ. This is a bigger than life man in automotive, yet he had 5 lives before he even got into this crazy business. So I think that it's important that there's reasons he's such a big human. Yeah. And as I've thought these last few days, I've realized one of the most important things we can all do for his legacy, because his legacy is important to him, is that all us humans that have been influenced by him, that we do pay it forward.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, good point.
That is the aspect that is the important part. Legacy happens when you actually take what you've been given and you move that forward. So that's what I challenge to everyone is to, love like Jim, give like Jim, be like Jim. And I think that's what we have to give back. That's right.
That's right. Jennifer, a lot of people in the industry thought, not a lot, but a number of people that I would talk to over the years would say, that Jim Ziegler, boy, he's got an ego the size of Montana, as one dealer said to me. And, it's funny because I actually brought it up to him. I said, there's some in the industry that think you have a very big ego. He goes, I do have a big ego. And that's what I think more people need to have that self-confidence. Talk to me about that. Did you see that working with him, that he was pretty confident?
Yeah, he definitely was very confident. And for Jim, it was part of his reinvention.
Yeah.
He was always confident in that he would own whatever business he was in, and he did. But the flip side of that ego, because I've heard that from a lot of people too, and sure. I talk about how many women Jim and Debbie have opened the doors for, and they're like, wait, that guy with the flashy jewelry, there's no way he's an advocate.
Sure.
But with as big as that ego and as confident was, his compassionate heart was just as.
Yeah.
And he had an eye for talent, not just his own. I think that's why he had the ego, because he knew
that's right.
He had the stuff, right? Yep. He proved it over and over again. And I love what April just said, is just to love like Jim. Jim loved the work that he did.
Yeah.
And he loved his family, and he loved his friends, and he loved this industry. So I think that's perfect. And I know the ego sometimes is hard to look past, but once you have that conversation, you can see all the genuineness behind it. It was not fake. It was not anything. He was the man,
That's
right, before the alpha dog.
like the hat said, right? There's no question about it. Yeah. Sean, you obviously worked with him so many times and shared the stage with him. The guy was one of a master in terms of controlling the audience and gaining their respect and their attention. As you know, as a professional speaker yourself, that's not always easy to do. But man, he did it. You could hear a pin drop when that guy was talking.
Yeah, listen, this is one of Jim's favorite quotes. I actually put it on our platform is master your craft like you're going to master any other subject if you're going to get a degree in school.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Him, it was CSP, Jim Ziegler, CSP, comma, HSG. It was hilarious. It's Certified Speaking Professional, which is one of the top, accreditations in the
Sure.
NSA, but he's a high school graduate. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like he might have an ego, but he mastered his craft and he wanted to be the best automotive professional he could. And if you think about what is our instrument, it's speech. Jim was a master in neurolinguistics, in tradecraft, in storytelling. He wasn't just a master car salesman. He wasn't just a master F&I. He was a master at anything he did. And the reason why he had the ego, which I can relate, there's people that are humble, but here's the thing. If you want people to listen and pay attention to you in a money profit industry like us,
Sure.
you got to be about this life. And one thing anybody has to recognize, whether you like him, don't like him, he's flashy, he's not, is you have to respect the man was talented.
That's right.
He would get on and jump in a deal, jump in a TO, jump in the box on command. And he was famous saying, look, a lot of their people all about talking. He was about this life. And I'm really proud, to be able to say that I've learned so much from watching the master do his thing.
Yeah, for sure. Jennifer, I want to go back to you for a second because you're actually there at Jim's house today, right? Helping Debbie with some arrangements and such.
Yeah, I have his baby girl Sophie on my lap right now.
Oh, there you go. We've seen her in social media, that's for sure. First and foremost, how's Debbie doing?
She's getting things done. I think, just trying to make a celebration for a man as big as Jim is a big task, but they're true partners. And so she's here and Zach's been with her since he's been on hospice just to be here to help. And she's hanging in there, but
yeah.
We promised him we would not let her do this by herself.
That's
so
great.
we are here
Great.
to fulfill those promises.
That's awesome. Sean, talk to me about the funeral arrangements. I know that you feel passionate that everybody should try to make it if they can.
Yeah, obviously, I totally understand this is very short notice, but again, in lieu of what we were just talking about, I think it's very important that if you can show up to the services, which are going to be Thursday evening, and the actual funeral is going to be on Friday afternoon, you guys can post the details on there. But I'm just speaking on behalf of the family and his friends. If he has impacted you in some way, shape, or form, show up. Yeah. If you can't show up, we understand that. But at least post a tribute, post a memory in honor. And I would love for Jennifer or April or Donna, everybody else, do you guys agree with me on this?
Yeah, and Jim did ask us later too at a conference. We are going to have a celebration of life so that more people can come together and share those memories. But the funeral service is 2 p.m. on Friday. So if you can make it, that would be amazing. Just to show everyone what that loving like Jim is like. That's right. Making that effort and making those connections would be amazing.
And it'll be nice for Debbie as well. So
yes.
Great. Thank you for that. Don, I'll give you the last comments here. What do you want to leave the audience with as it relates to Jim Ziegler and his passing today?
Some of these comments were made earlier on, but just one more time, and that is spend a minute and think about Jim. Think about the life that he led. Yeah. But think about others in your life that have lived in a way that you admire them and they've had some imprint on you as well. And spend just a minute. Don't do like I did and don't make that phone call. I should have called him. I knew to call him even a month ago, and I just didn't do it because I was busy. Yeah. Take time out to celebrate people in your life that make a difference, that are making a difference, that have made a difference, and that you love, like, and care about you. Because at any point, any of us can be gone. God rest his soul. And hopefully that he and his family will get back on their feet soon and get on about their lives as well. So thank you for the opportunity to say some good things, about a man who gave his life to the auto industry and is well known because of that fact.
I am going to leave it right there because I agree. April, Jennifer, Don, and Sean, thank you so much for joining me. Very much appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to join me for this special occasion and this special edition. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jim, for doing this.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much.